It's been 28 years since the dawn of democracy. The African National Congress has been in power, rebuilding a country that went through years of social injustice and inequality. Now, a lot has changed in many communities, but critics have also blamed the very same ANC for derailing the Freedom Project through its inability to deal with corruption. And the level of unemployment is currently also a huge problem in the country. Let's talk now to Dr. Gwen Ramokgopa. She is a coordinator at the ANC Secretary General's office. She joins us via the virtual platform. Dr. Ramokgopa, thank you very much for your time. We are edging closer to 30 years of freedom. It's just 2 years to go. Let's reflect on the past 20 years. And let me take the opportunity to ask you, as a representative of the governing ANC, what would you say is the legacy of your party in governance thus far?
Thank you very much, Xoli, and thanks to the viewers and listeners. 28 years down the line, I think we look back and say we are on a firm road to freedom that we have not as yet fully achieved. There's no doubt that we have political freedom, which we must all value, because where we come from has really been a devastating years of oppression, of brutality, and of state neglect. But we must say that not yet uhuru, not all is achieved. So the 28 years that we celebrate, we also recommit to do even more, including also to correct some of the mistakes that have happened, and some of the weaknesses, and also to be decisive that we must work as a united society, as a nation, as South Africa, to make South Africa better and to be shoulder to shoulder with others in the world.
Yeah.
I'm just reminded that China, for instance, has just celebrated last year the eradication of poverty, and they gave themselves 40 years well into their freedom from their occupiers. Much later, not since they were free from occupiers, but much later they gave themselves about 40 years to start eradicating poverty. We are 28 years. We have made significant progress, and much more needs to be done. I think the problems, all the interviewees that you had outline the problems that are still outstanding.
Yeah.
But for me, I was a young student when the apartheid system was in place. We dedicated our lives to defeating apartheid in our lifetime. We studied by day, we were underground by night. We studied by week, during the week. Over the weekends, we were mobilizing in communities, mobilizing workers, students, including even Christian associations. And we were even so determined. We gave ourselves timelines that in our lifetimes, freedom.
Yeah.
So that we must celebrate.
All right.
But as a student, also the last thing, as a student, many young children died in our hands as a medical student with kwashiorkor and marasmus. And we celebrate that that era is over. Yes, our children are not as getting nutrition optimally, but we have turned the tide against the severe malnutrition like kwashiorkor and marasmus and many other things. But most needs to be done.
All right. And I'm glad that you've raised all of these issues in your reflections, including your own personal circumstances at the time, because that's why many people say the ANC is inextricably linked to Freedom Day, partly because of your contribution in fighting for the freedoms of ordinary South Africans. But that also, though, Dr. Ramokgopa, has gotten South Africa extremely worried about the sense of entitlement from people, or should I say, your comrades, some of them at least, because corruption, the grinding poverty, the neglect of public infrastructure, including what some would even venture to say has been an element of self-sabotage by those of your comrades who find themselves on the wrong side of the law today. Would that be a fair assessment, and what needs to be done to correct those things, if indeed you agree?
Thanks, Xoli, for that reflection. Really helpful. I think we have always been open to identify weaknesses within the ANC itself, as the ANC is a microcosm of our society. Our membership also come from society, and indeed some come with ulterior motives. Some have turned the back against the values and the principles, and indeed some have targeted the ANC to destroy it from within. I think some of these reflections that I'm making are self-evident.
Dr. Gwen Ramokgopa, breaking off just as she concludes the point she was making there. Perhaps that will be a good point to leave that there. But